Zombies Need Brains presents an interview with Sharon Lee and Steve Miller, hosted by Jean Marie Ward. Welcome, Sharon and Steve.
Hi there.
Thank you.
So glad to have you. At last count, the Liaden universe encompassed 18 novels and 21 chapbooks. Did you ever think this fictional universe would grow so large when you sat down to write Agents of Change?
Well, I think we started out, as soon as we had the first sentence in hand, we started off expecting it to go to 7 books.
Which the Agent of Change sequence does go to 7 books. It's just not the 7 books we had originally planned them to go to, because we sold the first 3 on a 3-book contract, and the publisher, our editor at that time, was with Del Rey, and Del Rey had 3 books, and if you're not a bestseller, you're out. So we didn't get to write the other 4 books in sequence.
How come they weren't it was out of sequence. That was the reason they weren't the 7 books you planned. It wasn't the characters taking...
No, it wasn't the characters taking charge that time. It was because then the 7 books had to be a trilogy. We had to take out various storylines in order to make it sort of a trilogy.
The third book of what appeared to be a trilogy was actually a very rapid, I hate to say it, but mishmash of what had supposed to have been happening, and we had to take Patron Euspelium totally out of the book, and the book was supposed to involve him drastically. The end result is that when we got finally a new publisher, we had several books that came out very strange because they were putting Patron in back where he belonged.
Yeah, I Dare especially is very strangely structured because we had to dump Patron's entire backstory, which should have happened in Carpe Diem and Plan B and spread out, into I Dare, and then everybody who had been running real time in the series and Patron had to meet up at Elm and Chestnut at 6 o'clock on Monday afternoon. So it was kind of a challenge.
I understand that the internet played a big role in this series. How did you learn about its popularity on the internet? I mean, was this a surprise?
We should actually date ourselves and the series a little bit. We started before The Wheel of Time and before the Game of Thrones. So we've been doing this for quite some time, and before the internet was big, we were actually on the bulletin board systems around the world, and that's how we got our support from the fans back when it was still Usenet and equivalent.
Oh my goodness, we didn't have an internet.
Genie and all of those. And what happened is that since I put together a bulletin board system, we were operating one of the 2 or 3 largest systems in the state of Maine at the time. I put it together, and we started getting strange emails, and I think Sharon might have gotten the first one, and that came in, "Are you the Sharon Lee?"
And your immediate reaction is, "Oh my God, what have I done now?" And the Sharon Lee? Yes, the Sharon Lee who wrote Agent of Change and Conflict of Honors and Carpe Diem with Steve Miller. Well, yes, I can cop to that. Where's Plan B, which would have been the 4th book?
And we were contacted by somebody in Argentina who said, "I love your books, and I want to put together a group on Vitonet," and there were several other interchanges that he was part of, that for your fans, can I? And he did.
It's like all 3 of them? What?
And it turned out that there were quite a few, and we ended up on the one of the questions on Rec Arts SF.
Oh yeah, we made the FAQ.
We made the FAQ on Rec Arts SF written for which there were about 15 or 20 questions that everybody was asking, and enough people were asking that we were part of the FAQ that you were supposed to read before you came in and asked your generic questions on in the network. So what happened was that people got connected and eventually started sharing books because our books were out of print. We had a book that came from New Zealand, went to Hawaii. From Hawaii, it went to Australia, and from Australia, it came back and eventually made it back to New Zealand after a librarian had rebound it.
Because it was a mass market original, so it was falling apart, going through the mail, and all these people reading it.
That is a wonderful story of literally hand selling the book.
Yes.
And our fans were very, very ardent, which was quite a surprise to us, because the editor who had let us go had said, well, it amazes me that writers work so hard, but you don't have a career here.
Ooh. Famous rejection letters, that goes in
no,
it.
that was by telephone.
Oh.
Even worse, yes, but it was a little difficult.
Oh.
And the reason that they had let us go, the official reason, was that we didn't have the numbers, which means nobody bought your book.
Uh-huh.
And it turned out that, yes, apparently a lot of people had read our books, whether they had lent them to friends or whatever. And they had started, when we got the internet and publishers started to put up their little rudimentary web pages with questions and answers, Del Rey became inundated with questions about where are the rest of the Liaden books. And you could kind of go down the questions and see the first question, the editor, whoever was, poor woman who was trying to maintain this thing, was fairly patient, and we loved the books too, but they just didn't have the numbers. And then the second one, she was a little more testy. And the third one, she said, look, we're not going to republish these books just for a couple of hundred geeks on the internet.
Oh.
Anyway, okay, the second mistake, in hindsight.
Yes. As a cat lover, I've got to ask, what prompted you to put so many cats into the series?
Well, we read old science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And in old science fiction, there were a lot of dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And we felt at that point that cats were underrepresented. And we are also cat lovers, and cats are clearly alien intelligences that are trying to communicate at least their needs and your inadequacy to serve them.
Yes.
So we thought we would write cats in, because it's the write what you know.
And
yeah.
And it's sort of a write what you know. And actually, my background says that cats are part of science fiction anyway. I knew Terry Carr, and Terry Carr, after all, had done at least one and I think several anthologies about cats in science fiction. And I've known quite a few other science fiction writers, and many of them, Roger Zelazny, for example, used to work in the basement of his house, and he had a false roof over that particular room, so if you went to visit Roger, you could hear the cats running over his head while he was writing. So, so many science fiction writers, and Anne McCaffrey used to share photographs of her cat, of one in Pumpkin, which was a Maine Coon cat, and she was so pleased to find out she was a fan of our writing, which we discovered through correspondence, and she said, "You've got Maine Coon cats, that's lovely, here's pictures of mine." And she sent us photographs of piles of our books that she was reading, which was nice, and her sitting with the cat next to these piles of books, which was very nice. But
and Anne also brought cats in. I mean, Decision at Duno brought the aliens cats.
What are the carousel books?
The carousel books. The carousel books are Carousel Tides, Carousel Sun, and Carousel Seas, written by Sharon Lee, and they happened because I had fallen in love with a rock at Old Orchard Beach, Maine. There's this huge rock called Guggen Rock, and it's an historic rock. There was an Indian battle, an Indian versus settler battle at this rock, and it was decided by the tide coming in.
Oh.
So I took Steve down. I said, we need to write a book about this rock. And Steve was not in love with the rock.
Oh, no.
He did not, the rock did not speak to him. And I am also a fan of carousels. I belong to the National Carousel Association. And I am also a fan of beat-up old resort towns. And so Carousel Tides and the 3 carousel books take place in Archer's Beach, Maine, which is a very slight off of Old Orchard Beach, and it is a place where the normal and the weird interface, and the focus of all of this is Kate, who keeps the carousel.
Oh, cool, cool. Will that universe or the Liaden universe be part of your story for alien artifacts coming up this summer.
Neither one.
Neither one. No, we have other interests. And one of the interests, I am an attempted guitarist. I periodically remember to pick it up and put it in tune, and after I finish tuning it, and my fingers are tired already, so I maybe won't get much further. And we have ongoing interest between us about the idea of alien life and alien things. I follow a lot of the astronomy, the new astronomy, as we're learning, which is so different from the astronomy we grew up with, the so-called facts of life. I mean, you know, poor Pluto.
Yeah.
So anyway, when they gave us the opportunity, it was a chance to say, okay, let's sidestep, and because we've got 3 million words in the Liaison universe or so, so every so often it's good to take a sidestep.
How do you find time to do that, though? Because you've got, you know, so many books there. You've got the carousel books. How do you find time to step outside your worlds?
Short stories happen. We started as short story writers, and short stories just happen. You get an idea. You see somebody walking down the street, and ideas are cheap.
And the stepping aside, for us, the books are a different energy actually than the short stories. They're not the same. And it was interesting, a while back we did an anthology for a company that's now defunct, and we asked Lee Modisette to and Lee had written by that time a dozen or several dozen of his books, and he said, I've never written a short story in my life.
And it was a real challenge for him, but the short story was wonderful.
He did a really good job on it, but he said it made him have to stop and go whoop and really switch gears. So for some of us, the short stories can go into novellas. There's a story there that we've done novellas. But the short stories just can sort of happen on the side.
What are y'all working on now?
Actually, we just turned in a book right
before
we came to the con, The Gathering Edge, and we have 4 books yet under. I think it's 4 books yet under contract. What happened was we got a contract for 5 books. We turned in 2 books, and they gave us a contract for 2 books, so we can go back out.
Oh, cool.
But I think we're at 4 books now.
And we have several other projects that are kind of on the cusp, and we really can't say, gee, guess what, until there's a little bit more substantial things. We're not simply looking at the run of the series, the exact arc of the series that we're in, but we're looking at a couple of other things. And besides that, we understand that there's a couple of anthologies out there that would like to challenge us with a couple more short stories. So we may be doing short stories for a month or 2 and then get back into the...
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I know your fans will be happy for all of this work. We're coming up against the end of the interview. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We're glad to be here as returning guests of honor here at Balticon, and it's great that we have the fans to help make it happen. And we're just thank you, and thank you for the rest of the fans.